Welcome back to Tabletop Assault. I'm David, and today we're bringing you a review of the chapter approved 2018 edition. We're going to be talking a lot about the points changes today, especially some of the unit additions and mission changes for match play. But more importantly, I should mention I'm dying with the flu just now, so apologies guys if my voice doesn't come through clearly. And unfortunately I won't be doing a full in-depth review of the whole book because my voice will give out and then I'm done for. So guys, what I will do though to try and help along with the points changes is all the pages are going to be on this video, which you can pause the video, take a look at the points changes for yourself for your respective armies that you guys all play. But what we will do is we'll touch on some of the key armies that we play here on the channel and we're quite passionate about, and especially our opinions and thoughts on those points changes. Again, we won't touch on all the armies guys that are involved in the points changes, but as the armies come through the screen they will be on there for you with their respective points changes for you guys to pause the video and take a look. So without any further ado, we're actually going to crack on with one of the first armies that we play on the channel and one of the first changes that we noticed, which was actually the Adeptus Mechanicus, with some interesting changes in here to kind of draw out. One of the things that Ross has kind of started to shy away from using on the channel is destroyers and breachers because of the points heavy sink that you put into actually fielding them. And I believe in the previous sort of points chapter approved there were around about 30 points for a destroyer and a breacher. If you now look at it, the breachers are down to 20 points and the destroyers have been halved down to 15 points. Now I know from facing these units pack a punch, but it was hard to field them in large numbers due to the points you put on them. Well, with that size of a points reduction guys, you're going to expect to see more destroyers and breachers, certainly on our channel and across a lot of AdMech players out there. The Tech Priest Dominus coming down quite heavily in points, down to 80. It probably makes it feel more right. It makes it feel you're paying the points equivalent to what it'll achieve in the battlefield. Again, you all may disagree with my opinions here guys, but before the Tech Priest Dominus didn't quite live up to the points cost that you were putting into that model, and that's just, I feel a points reduction was warranted. Interestingly enough though, Belisarius Call coming down quite heavily, down to 190 points. Again, Belisarius Call is a really good army buff, but other than that he does seem to lack in certain areas compared to other named HQ choices across other armies. So 190 points in my opinion is quite a decent sort of reduction. Again, on page 1 you can see some of the Astra Militarum units, and I'll flick over to page 2 for you guys so you can also see the remaining Astra Militarum units and their war gear. A few slight changes in war gear. Obviously the Vanquisher cannons came down in points. But again guys, Astra Militarum, pause the page here if you guys want, pause the video sorry, if you guys want to have a look at some of the points changes. Now moving on to Blood Angels as well, you can see there quite a lot of point differences with regards to the units. What I would say though on page 2 and page 3 guys is, again, pause this if you want to take a look more at the Blood Angel units themselves. Again, obviously I don't know too much about the Blood Angels, not being a Blood Angels player, but hopefully the points reductions have been kind to you Blood Angel players out there. Moving on as well, you then have Chaos Demons. Now they, interestingly enough, have taken quite a decent points reduction compared to the Codex and obviously the units. Some of the ones that you really want to draw out here is actually the Greater Demons themselves. And I'm very excited to get my Chaos Demons back out on the table, primarily for the massive points reductions these units have had. So just for example guys, you've got your Bloodthirsters are down to about 240, 260 points for the Dedis one, which is the Insensate Rage, but that's down from a 300 plus point model down to a 200 point plus model. That's going to make bringing the Greater Demons very, very scary, but that's also a true reflection for the Great Unclean ones as well. Their prices there, you can see obviously the Bile Blade one's 275, the Dedis one is at 305, and that's with the Bell and Plague Fail for the Great Unclean ones. They again feel like a really, really viable Greater Demon to bring to the table. The one that really did stand out for me though is how cheap is a Keeper of Secrets, 165 points. Pardon my voice here guys, but yeah, 165 points. I'm excited about that. That's really, really good. And then you also have none other than Scarbrand at 330. But let's move on to my favourite. Let's move on to Tzeentch. Keeper of Secrets, sorry, not Keeper of Secrets, Chaos Fate Weaver at 285 points. Why would you not field him? And then obviously a Lord of Change coming in just behind him at 270 points, and with the Bale Flail Sword giving it 275 points. So you've now got your Tzeentch Greater Demons coming in at under 300 points as well. That is incredible. And demons, as you know, some of the other units are quite cheap to field in large numbers, such as the Bloodletters and Plague Bearers, etc, etc. So you've actually got some really hard hitting Greater Demons that you can shield quite well, but you can basically swarm your opponent now with still carrying Greater Demons. Pardon me, guys. Soul Grinders, I don't know if they came down in points, but Soul Grinder for 180 points feels just about right. Moving on then as well to some other units that we actually have, and I think this is another really good change, is Chaos Space Marines, or Heretic Astartes. Now just a quick reminder here, again, pause the video guys if you want to take a look at the page in greater detail. So Chaos Space Marines, I really want to focus here on the characters actually more than anything else, because we all know some of the core units are lacking, but they're kind of equivalent to Space Marine points, which will come on to Space Marines soon enough. But let's look at it. So you've got Cypher and Fabius coming in under 100 points each. Cypher for 80 points seems fantastic. Really good unit, can do a lot of damage. But then you've got Lucius the Eternal going down to 85 points. Now I'm a big fan of Lucius, and I've played Lucius quite a lot. He can be extremely deadly in combat, and I'm not going to underestimate that. Extremely deadly. Okay, he's lacking in survivability compared to his counterparts, but for 85 points, yeah, that is brilliant. And then the same goes for Huron and Karn. Point reductions there. These units hit like brick walls when they actually get into combat, but their survivability getting to combat was always lacking at times, so bringing down the points makes them feel a lot more viable. What I'm a bit disappointed to not see, however, is actually, what's his name called? Abaddon. I'm very disappointed not to see Abaddon take much of a points reduction here, guys, because I don't feel he really carries the same sort of firepower to the battlefield that a model and a character of his standing should really warrant. And there's some characters in this you're going to see later why I'm saying I'm a bit disappointed he's not had a points reduction. But again, I'll move away now from the Chaos Space Marines, and you can see the bottom of that page you've got some craft rolled units. Pardon me, guys. Craft rolled units I'm not going to touch on in greater detail, guys, because you can kind of have a look at them yourself. We're not going to touch on every army today, but Avatar of Cain was one of the units that took quite a heavy points drop by 30 points. I've only play tested Avatar of Cain, never been wanting to use him because he was about 250 points before. Didn't feel like I was getting enough for my model, but yeah, points have been reduced down there. But again, I won't talk too much on Eldar because I know there's a lot of salt out there for Eldar armies as it is at the moment. But again, feel free to look there, guys, at their points reductions. And the same goes for Dark Angels. We don't use Dark Angels on the channel, so I do apologise, my knowledge is lacking a little bit in Dark Angels. But have a look and feel free to pause the video here, guys, to get your points for Dark Angels. Death Guard as well, along with Death Watch. A few nice points reductions. See if you can spot them in there, guys. Take a look. What I do want to move on though, and past Genestealer cults as well. The reason I'm going to move past Genestealer cults, guys, is they've got a codex drop soon. So what we see in these points reductions at the moment might change again potentially. Although the points you see for Genestealer cult is probably a good indication of what's to come. I'm just going to get some water, guys, because my throat is killing me. Thanks for your patience. So, this is an army I've been really interested to actually talk about, and that is Grey Knights. Now, you all know from the channel, I'm a massive, and I do mean massive, Grey Knights player. Love the armies, but what I always felt was Grey Knights just don't field enough. Their points are too heavy. Yes, they can control a psychic phase of a game, but that's one phase. So what have Grey Knights really had? And, well, it's a ton of fun. That's what they've had, guys. So, looking at some core units, your Dreadnought, sorry, down to 65 points, which again is equivalent across the board sort of thing. But Grandmasters have came down, especially the Nemesis Grandmaster, Nemesis Dread Knight. That's 170 points for him. That is phenomenal. That's what I want to be seeing when it comes to my Grey Knights. Some other things to draw out as well is regards to the named characters. So with the named characters, you have, I won't touch about the Stormraven, I'll come to that. The named characters, you've got Castellan Crow down to 80 points. Now Castellan Crow, okay, he's a character in combat that doesn't have AP, so he'll struggle in combat. I fully disagree. Castellan Crow, with the right setup, can be a horde blender. And he also has Purifying Flame to give him D6 mortal wounds in the psychic phase. So this character can pack a serious punch actually against any foe if used effectively and efficiently. But for 80 points, wow, that makes him, for me, a want to take. Other units to draw out is Voldis has came down to 153 points. Are you kidding me? He's a psychic phenomenon with a Thunder Hammer that he doesn't swing at any penalties, and he's only 153 points. Sure, I'll take it for days. But then this is where my point earlier about the Abaddon non-points reduction, which disappointed me. Kaldor Drago. Kaldor Drago, guys, is, in my opinion, a really good equivalent and measuring stick for Abaddon. And Kaldor Drago's came down to 180 points. I couldn't believe when I read that. I thought this is not true, but no, 180 points, guys, for Kaldor Drago. That is incredible. This guy feels to me like a 200 point plus character, but if you're going to give it to me for 180 points, I'll bite your hand off, GW. Well played, well played. So yeah, I won't go into too many details there, but that's the things that I drawn out, which was the Grandmaster Nemesis Dread Knight, Crow, Voldis and Drago. They are looking pretty sweet indeed. With regards then to moving on, you've got Harlequins. They've only had one change, guys, which I can briefly touch on, which is Fusion Pistol at 7 points. I'm going to skip the Imperial Knights because, again, I'm not going to touch about every army in this, but I want to touch on Necrons actually. Necrons did actually get some love, and I think this will make a few Necron players out there quite happy. So a couple of things you got was the Catan drop. So the Catan Nightbringer has dropped to 180 points. You know what? I've played with him a few times and played against him a few times. It's trying to get him to his objective and who to kill. For 180 points, I'm not so bothered about fielding him now. If he dies, before with the old points cost, it was a real hard blow to take. Not so much anymore. And then moving on, the other kind of points I want to talk about when you look at units themselves is with regards to the flyers. Now, I know a lot of viewers have said they don't like my flyer list, they feel it's not really worth it, it doesn't do the damage. I disagree, but with these new points reductions, I disagree even more. Like, for example, a Doom Scythe is now only 150 points. I'll bite your hand off for that. 150 points, and a Night Scythe is down to 135 points. Now my flyers list that I run on the channel feels even more efficient than it's ever been before. Again, you can see some of the changes there, guys, on the other units. Something that you probably do want to take from this is actually some of the weapon war gear Necron points changes. And for example, you've now got the Gauss Blaster is now down to 7 points, which is quite a decent reduction there as well. And the Heavy Gauss Cannon is now down to 20 points. Again, another reduction there, which is really nice. Tesla Carbines as well are down to 7 points, so slight reductions there, guys. Probably worth mentioning here the Officio Assassinorum. A couple of point reductions here, so Calidus down to 70 and Vindicator down to 80. And then Space Marines, I'll show you some of the pages, and just a quick reminder, guys, if you want to pause the video at any point, pause the video, take a look at your picture there that has your points for your army reduction, feel free to study it as we move on. But Space Marines, again, I won't go through this because there's been so many changes and I will be losing my voice shortly. But let's look at the one that I really noticed, and that was actually the Stormraven. So if I can find the unit on the page here, Stormraven Gunship has been reduced down to 192 points, I believe, which oh no, sorry, Stormraven has not been reduced. Stormraven always was 192 points, wasn't it? So that's an interesting, that's just kept that basically the exact same. Fair enough. Terminator squads, I did notice there was a 3-point reduction in Terminator squads from 26 down to 23 points, which, you know what, felt very nice. And that was really it for me there. I'm not really going to go into the units as a whole. Character wise, the one that stood out for me the most was none other than Captain Lysander. The Captain Lysander, as you should all know by now, he is my go-to Space Marine captain. He's came down to 130 points, which I feel is incredibly cheap for a man that again swings his hammer, his righteous hammer, with no penalties and just does untold amounts of damage. And the last one was obviously a points increase for Rabute Guilliman. He's now a 400 points plus character. You know what? I'll take it. That feels right. I do not like Ultramarines. I do not like Rabute Guilliman. So 400 points, finally, I think for the utility he does to the army is exceptional. But his points increase is warranted, guys. It's absolutely warranted. Space Wolves, I won't really go over any sort of changes there, guys. You can all feel free to look at that at your leisure. With regards to Storm Shield changes, I should have actually touched on this already for Space Marines, but I'll just touch on this on Space Wolves because it's such an important component for Space Wolf armies. Storm Shields actually got a really nice change. Characters' Storm Shields cost 10 points. If you're a non-character, your Storm Shield costs 2 points. Now I've got a problem with this. I feel 2 points is too cheap. Pardon the pun, but that is far too cheap for a Storm Shield, guys. Space Wolves have an incredible amount of access to Storm Shields, costing only 2 points for a 3-up invul save. Let me know your thoughts on that one there, guys, but I feel that's way too cheap. And then obviously with regards to weaponry as a whole, I believe there wasn't really too many major changes, well, there are major changes, but I'll let you guys have a look at it. The one that really stood out to me was twin last cannons are no longer 50 points, they're now down to 40 points. And the same goes for Tau, guys. I won't look into it too much for you because I feel that's the sort of thing that you guys can take a look at your leisure. Again, a lot of changes to Tau. Thousand Suns was actually quite an interesting one I wanted to kind of sort of touch on for everybody. Thousand Suns, there was a few subtle changes, which if I bring up my notes, here it comes. Thousand Suns, where are we? So correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Rubric Marines took a slight points drop, and I could be wrong with that one, but 16 points feels about right. With regards as well to Thousand Suns War Gear, there was a few changes. Soul Reaper Cannon came down to 10 points. I think some people are quite unhappy about that because it's quite a powerful unit. But Soul Reaper Cannons came down. A Warp Flamer as well, I believe, came down in points to 10 points. Correct me if I'm wrong there, guys. They've also got the Twin Last Cannon change as well, down to 40 points. And then obviously with regards to the Soul Reaper Cannon, the Warp Flare pack, that's just going to make a lot more heavy hitting Thousand Suns a lot cheaper. And then you also get your Tyrannid changes as well, but again I won't go over everything, guys. Feel free to rewind, pause the pages, let me know what you think about them. But that's the ones that I wanted to draw out for me. Was obviously some of the changes to Grey Knights were huge, same for Necrons. I actually should mention for Necrons, I kind of forgot, guys, biggest one was Emotech as well, bringing him down in points. Emotech Stormlord down to 160 points, nearly 40 points of a reduction there. That's incredible. He's a character which I refused to use in 8th edition when he was my #1 Necron character, so you might see him on the field again. Forge World, now I'm not going to go through all the Forge World changes, guys, purely because I feel that's something which we don't really play much on the channel, but guys, feel free to look at the pages I'm about to show you next. Pause this video here at any point if you want to take a look at the points in more detail, but there's a massive variety of changes for Forge World now across all factions. So your Adeptus book, your Xenos book, your Chaos book, it's all pretty much there. One thing that I should mention, there's one faction that hasn't been really represented in this, and that's Orcs, but that's obviously because of their recent Codex drop. But there is Orc points changes with regards to their Forge World units, guys, so take a look in there. Some updated data sheets. Now I won't analyse these data sheet changes for you, but if you just want to look again, pause the video. You've got the Intercessor Squad, Chaos Demon Fiends, Chaos Demon Horrors, Blood Crushers and Flesh Hounds. They are all in there for you guys, so pause the video here at any point if you wish to read that and analyse them in any more sort of detail. So moving on, we're now going to look at our next sort of section, which is going to be the Renegade Knights. So Quester Traitor Knights, or Traitorous Knights, got some very interesting additions. What I'm going to show you here, guys, these are the 3 data sheets for your Renegade Knight, your Renegade Knight Dominus, and respectively the Renegade Armiger. And then obviously the next page you'll be shown in a second is obviously the points that go along with all their war gear, the units themselves, along with any melee upgrades. Detachment rules is probably worth having a wee quick chat about this. So you've obviously got your new stratagems as well, which is rotating ion shields for 1 to 3 command points, which is obviously buffing up your invul shield up to a maximum of 3, which is always very good. And you've also got Trail of Destruction for 2 command points. Use the stratagem when you choose a Quest or Traitorous unit from your army and makes attacks while in the shooting or fight phase. Until the end of the phase you can reroll failed hit rolls for that unit. So that's always very nice. But it's good to see that the Chaos Renegade Knights are getting a little bit of love. You've got your 3 units there, all your detachment rules, guys, which you can look at along with your stratagem. So have a wee quick look at that, feast your eyes on those, and pause the video, guys, if you wish to look at some more. And then the last sort of unit we want to look at is, well, drumroll please, Tau have introduced the 8. The 8 has been reintroduced back to 8th edition. It was in 7th edition, and I know some people I've seen on other channels are running their own sort of proxy versions of the 8 on 8th edition, but hey, you've got a unit now. Now, this whole unit comes as a package, a total package of 8 characters and 14 drones for a total cost of 1,120 points. That includes all war gear. So yeah, you can bring the 8 with some points to spare, guys, in your battle reports. But you've got all your detachment sort of rules there, all your abilities. There is so much here, guys, and I will lose my voice if I go through all of this. So please take your time, guys, to pause the video here and look at it. You're going to get to see all the units they can take along with their ability rules, and guess what? The ability rules are practically endless along with all their keywords, etc. So yeah, feel free, guys, to pause the video here, take a look at the armory, all the etc that you're getting for the 8, but it is brilliant. This is a unit that we're probably going to be experimenting with on the channel, guys. Unfortunately our tower not painted in this sort of scheme, but please, guys, take a look at these. I think you're going to absolutely love them. So the last sort of thing we want to talk about, and it's quite important to actually discuss this because I imagine GW might raise a few questions on this, and it's the new sort of missions you've got. So I won't go through individual mission, but what I'll do is I'll point out some of the new sort of add-ons to these missions which weren't there before. So in the new Battlefronts, it's really just a sort of new confirmation of a lot of the beta rules. For example, limits of command, etc. Psychic focus, strategic discipline, and targeting characters. These are sort of beta test rules that have been going on for the last sort of year. You can see it on the page here, guys, they're now fully introduced. But some of the fun things that I do think it's probably worth mentioning is, if you look through these Eternal War and Maelstrom missions, you'll probably notice on these sections here there's a rule that seems to pop up a few times. Now, not in all of them, but it does pop up in some of them, and that is the rule acceptable casualties. So on these missions for match play, there's it says the match play rules for sudden death are not in use for this mission. So acceptable casualties, as you're aware, for I think match play sudden death at the moment, is basically if you're tabled, you lose, regardless of the points factor. So you could be ahead by 20 points to 0, but you get tabled, the game is over, you're done. With acceptable casualties, it essentially removes that element. So you could be 20 points to the good and your opponents get 0, but your opponent tables you, it doesn't matter. The points is what still won you the game, even though you've lost all your units. So when you're playing some of these new missions, it's probably worthwhile paying attention to see if the acceptable casualties rule is actually in effect. And the other one that I noticed, which was quite interesting, is refined strategy. This is actually really fun, and I really do like this. So we all know, for example, you could be Necrons, and your opponent may be using their tactical objective cards against Necrons, and it's basically kill a Psyker. Well, that tactical objective ain't going to be getting achieved. So there's a lot of house rules people play, and we did it on the channel, which was, well, remove that card, it can never be achieved. So the refined strategy rule basically allows you, before the battle begins, to remove 6 tactical objective cards from your deck, and what that essentially does is remove cards, or give you the opportunity to remove cards which you won't be achieving or can't be achieved. That's a really nice rule, and that feels a nice wee addition from GW there, because we have all came up again that situation where there's something that can never be achieved due to either the type of army your opponents brought or the type of model composition that your opponents actually brought. But yeah, there's 6 new Eternal War missions, 6 new Maelstrom of War missions. They're all a ton of fun. We've already started to play test some of them, and you'll see them in our battle report release next week. But that is a really nice wee addition. So the other things we haven't really touched on, guys, and it will get its own separate sort of video, is the Sisters of Battle beta rules. You'll get to see that in its own separate video. And there's obviously a couple of other wee nice niche things in the chapter approved 2018. But overall, the book is actually fantastic, guys. I think there's a really nice sort of balance of points and a lot of nice new additions for units like the 8, for example, which was not available to us before in 8th edition. Again, guys, let me know your thoughts on the changes. If you think GW being too generous to armies, for example, that could be Grey Knights, or if you feel that GW hasn't been generous enough, for example, Chaos Space Marines with Abaddon, should he have warranted a points reduction when his counterparts like Drago, for example, are getting reduced? And apologies, guys, I'm not going to go through every single points change, but I hope you can forgive me. I'm under the weather with the flu just now, but I've kindly put these pictures up in this video for you so that you can pause the video at any point, take a look at the page sort of details, guys, and hopefully that'll you'll be able to spark some engagement and let me know your thoughts on Chapter Approved 2018. So for that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this video. Please comment, like, share and subscribe. We really want to know what you guys actually think of Chapter Approved 2018, so pop those comments down below. Let me know your opinions. All opinions are welcomed here on the channel, and let's have a talk about it. But we'll see you again soon on another one of our Tabletop Assault Battle Reports.